So already we have covered that is emulsions, gel, and the properties and everything we have seen it. Now coming to zeolites. Zeolites are aluminosilicates with a general formula Mx by N Al2OX SiO2y dot ZH2O, where N is the charge on the metal cation, which is Mn plus, which is usually Na plus, K plus, or Ca2 plus, and Z is the number of water molecules of hydration, which is highly variable. We can say that. Clear? So they are microporous 3-dimensional network silicates in which some silicon atoms are replaced by aluminium atoms, forming what is that? AlOSi linkages. Alright, some silicon atoms what you can say is being replaced by aluminium atoms, and instead of SiOSi it is going to form SiOSi means Si single bond O single bond Si, it is going to form Al single bond O single bond Si, because some what you can say silicon atoms are replaced by aluminium, and due to that reason they have a honeycomb like structure. You have seen a honeycomb, isn't it? They have got a honeycomb like structure. They are found in nature as well as they can be prepared artificially in the lab. Alright, they form an important class of oxide catalysis, and zeolites to be used as catalysts are heated in vacuum so that the water of hydration is lost. Alright, when it is used as a catalyst, we are heating in vacuum so that water is being lost, it gets dehydrated. Fine. And the size of the pores generally varies between 260 picometer and 740 picometer. Alright, so for example the zeolite sodium aluminosilicate, alright, sodium aluminosilicate, we can say that, so can absorb straight chain hydrocarbons and not branched or aromatic, what you can say, ones. It cannot. Clear? So consequently the reaction which is taking place in zeolite depends upon the size and shape of the reactant. It depends upon the size and shape of the reactant and the product molecules as compared to those of the pores and cavities of the zeolite. Now for that particular reason only we call these reactions as shape selective catalysis, because this is a catalysis reaction, but the reaction depends upon the size and the shape of the reactant and the product molecules as compared to those of the pores and cavities of the zeolites. So zeolites are being very widely used as catalyst, as I said you just now to you, because it is known as shape selective catalysis. Alright, and it is also used in petrochemical industries for cracking of hydrocarbon and isomerization. Alright, it converts alcohols directly into petrol, that is gasoline, by first dehydrating them so that a mixture of hydrocarbon is obtained. We can say that. Clear? It is also used as ion exchanger in softening of hard water. Last year you have studied the hard water and soft water. If you remember the zeolite which I have used it, sodium aluminum orthosilicate in Na2Al2Si2O8.XH2O. Just now I said you. Alright, just now I said you, that is a zeolite, sodium aluminum silicate. That is what I was talking to you. So in this way, these are the zeolites which acts as a selective catalysis, we can say that. Now next is enzymes are also act as a catalyst, but enzymes are called as biocatalyst. They are defined as a biocatalyst because biologically for metabolic activities it is being used. Chemically all enzymes, they are the globular proteins, alright, which are complex nitrogenous compounds. Alright, proteins means definitely nitrogen has to be there, with high molecular mass ranging from 15,000 to 1 lakh, you can say that, and form a colloidal solution in water. For every biological reaction it requires a different kinds of enzymes, you know that. Alright, for every biological reactions, because without the enzymes, the biocatalyst, the reaction is not possible. It is possible, but the reaction will be very, very slow. Alright, so enzymes are produced by living plants and animals, we can say that. Many of them have been obtained in the pure crystalline state from the living cells. Alright, clear. So they are vital for a biological process. Without them, I said you, the life will be very slow, it will be sluggish, the metabolic activities is not going to take place. So for example, it is being suggested simply, it is being taken into consideration that if suppose digestive enzymes are not there in our body, in our digestive system, then it would have taken 50 years to digest a single meal. We can say that. You should say, so nice, isn't it? Single meal. No. Before that, bacterial decomposition would have taken place and you would have suffered from many diseases. That it happens, no? Suppose if you are having some indigestion. So the meal should take, any particular meal should take 2 to 3 hours or maximum 3 to 4 hours to digest, to assimilate. If more than that it is being taken, means definitely it causes what you can say, that is diseases for you. Alright, that is you suffer from indigestion, diarrhea and so many other, we can say that. For example, there are certain enzymes are there which are being used in our particular reactions, like for the converting of sucrose, which is called as inversion of cane sugar. Inversion of cane sugar, where the enzymes used is invertase. So sucrose, when it reacts with water, it gives glucose and fructose. So there the enzymes used is your, it's nothing but is your invertase, we can say that. And the source of this particular enzyme is your yeast. Conversion of glucose into ethyl alcohol, C6H12O6, when it is converted into ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide in the presence of the enzyme that is called zymase, we can say that. Similarly, starch into maltose, maltose into glucose, manufacture of acetic acid from ethyl alcohol, decomposition of urea into ammonia and carbon dioxide. You know that NH2CO, NH2 is urea. When urea reacts with water in presence of enzymes, that is urease, it gives you ammonia and carbon dioxide. Conversion of milk into curd, that is the bio students, they know it, milk into curd, that is lactic bacilli enzymes is there which converts milk into curd, we can say that. Clear? It is the lactic bacilli, from where we get it from the source is here, nothing but the curd, we can say. Clear? So in this way, these are the different reactions which I said you, the enzymes reactions. Now characteristics of enzymes, if you see, they are specific in nature. That is, each enzymes catalyzes only a particular kind of reaction. So they are highly specific. Alright, that is, as just now I said, you know, enzyme urease, it is used for urea to convert into carbon dioxide in water. Zymase is being used to convert ethyl alcohol into glucose into ethyl alcohol. Sucrose is being that is invertase is being used to convert sucrose into glucose and fructose. So enzymes are highly specific in nature, we can say that, highly specific. And efficiency is that enzymes are they act at a particular temperature, we can say that, not below that, not above that. That is at a temperature of 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. That is an optimum temperature. It reacts, and a body temperature it reacts, we can say that. And the pH of it is around our slightly higher than that of the blood, we can say that, 7.4. Got it? Clear? And it is an efficient catalyst. The speed of the reactions, rate of reaction by a factor, it is being estimated that the factor is around 10 to the power 15 to 10 to the power 20 times. It increases the rate of the reactions. Got it? The enzymatic reactions, the metabolic activities, we can say that. Got it? So in this way, the enzymes which are the biocatalysts which are present in our body, in our food, or in many other what you can say products, so which is the source, it acts upon that particular substance and it speeds up the reactions. It makes the reaction more and more efficient, we can say that. I gave you an example that it increases the efficiency of the reaction from 10 to the power 15 to 10 to the power 20 times, we can say that. Clear? So hence the reaction becomes faster, and very small quantity of enzymes is highly sufficient. It's highly sufficient, small quantity, in micro quantities it is being required. Got it? Enzymes are, it is not required in large quantity. Just like catalysts you have studied, na? That catalysts are required in very minute quantities. Got it? So here also same thing, they are also biocatalyst. Here enzymes is a biocatalyst. It's also required in very minute quantities, not in large. Got it? So and it also gets regenerated also at the end of the reaction, you can say that. Got it? That is the most important thing. Got it? Clear? So in this way it catalyzes the reaction, and it is used in small quantities, in micro quantities. It is being estimated that it can decompose 36 millimolecules of carbon dioxide to carbonic acid, that is carbon dioxide and water, in 1 minute. And the amount of what you can say enzymes which is required is just nothing but what I should say, that is the mass of a pinhead. You know what a pinhead, you have seen it? Pinhead. Alright, so you can imagine how much mass is there, the pinhead, just a very, very small amount of. Alright, that much is enough to decompose 36 million molecules, sorry, millimolecules I'm saying, million molecules of carbonic acid to carbon dioxide and water, and that too it takes place in 1 minute, we can say that. So you can imagine that how much small quantity is required and how fast the reaction it is. Alright, and it acts as a enzyme activators, that is coenzymes. The activity of certain enzymes is increased in the presence of certain substances called coenzymes. Alright, now what are coenzymes? It has been observed that if a protein contains a small amount of vitamin as the non-protein part, we can say that its activity is enhanced considerably, increases. Alright, in the presence of that particular protein. The activators are generally which are being present is nothing but your metals such as sodium ion, manganese ion, copper ion, cobalt ion, etc. Alright, so they act as coenzymes. These metals, ions are weakly bonded to the enzyme molecules and increase their chemical activities. We can say that. Clear? So in this way, they increases the activity of the enzymes, we can say that. That is activators, we can say, which is known as, otherwise called as coenzymes. Similarly, there are also inhibitors and poisons which decreases the rate of the reaction of the catalyst, we can say that. Alright, so which decreases activity of the enzyme and is being slowed down. Alright, so those substances are called as inhibitors or poisons. Alright, they act by combining with the active functional group and thereby it reduces or completely destroys the catalytic activity of the enzymes. Alright, clear. So the use of many drugs, we can say, is on account of their action as enzyme inhibitors in our body. For example, you see that if you use a particular medicine for a long time, alright, then other medicines fails to act. Other medicines, basically some steroids and all, many people they use it. Steroids, you understand, that is for the painkillers and all, many people they use it. Alright, so that it causes in the long run a very drastic activity. Alright, that it causes. So hence we should not use it for the long run, any steroids or that sort of thing, we can say that. Clear? Because it acts as an inhibitors. Alright, those things we can say in our body. So next we can say the mechanism of enzyme catalysis. So enzymes, we have highly specific in nature, that is already I have said you about it. So this is, you can see a lock and key mechanism we are going to discuss. So enzymes, you can see it is given in the form of key and the product you will be getting it. Clear? And the lock is your nothing but is your that is substrate or the reactant molecules, we can say that. Clear? So they are highly specific. So the shape of the active site on a given enzymes is such that that it acts on a particular substrate only. It's not that any enzymes can be used for any reactant molecules. No, it is not possible. Alright, so to understand it better, we are taking this particular picture. So here you can see enzyme E plus S means what? Enzyme plus substrate. Then it forms an addition product and finally it gives rise to the product, we can say that, and enzymes is again released. Alright, so here E is your enzyme, that is your catalyst, and S is any substrate, that is a reactant. So when it reacts, I said you already, it forms a complex product, addition product, and after that the product is being formed, that is what you can say, it is being formed and the enzyme is being released, we can say that. Now how it is being done? So when an enzyme substrate complex is formed, the reaction is fast and reversible, remember it. It is a fast and reversible reaction. The first step which you can see, the enzyme substrate, E single bond S. Alright, so it's a fast and reversible process. Alright, now next is when the dissociation takes place, the process is slow and this process is a rate determining step. You have read in kinetics, chemical kinetics, that the slow step is the rate determining step. So here the second step where enzymes and the product is being formed, means enzymes is what you can say is again regenerated and the product is being formed. So this step is a slow step and hence it is your rate determining step, we can say that. So basically what it happens is that, as I said you, that is when enzymes, they are specific in action. I already discussed with you. The specificity of the enzymes is due to the presence of some specific regions called the active sites which are present on the enzymes. These active sites are associated with some functional groups like it can be your NH2 group in urea, COOH group in acid, and in alcohol like OH, and thioalcohol is SH. So these are, so which form weak bonds such as hydrogen bonds or van der Waals attraction with the substrate molecule. Alright, so this NH2, COH, OH, SH is present in the enzymes which acts as a biocatalyst. and these are the active sites, and they form a weak bond like a hydrogen bond or van der Waals force of attraction it forms with the substrate or the reactant molecules. So hence it is a fast step and it is a reversible in nature. So the shape of the active site of any given enzyme is it looks like the lock and the key. So hence it is said to be as a lock key mechanism. It is said to be as clear. It looks like this, the lock and the key, as you can see on the figure. Got it? The shape and the of the active site of any enzymes, we can say that it looks like this. So that is only one particular enzyme can fit into one particular substrate. So hence I said it is specific. Got it? Hence I said it is specific. Try to understand it. With any key you cannot open any lock, isn't it? So similarly, with any enzymes you cannot react with any substrate. A particular substrate or a particular reactant molecule react with a particular enzymes only. Got it? So hence it is known as lock and key. Got it? Understood now what is the meaning of the word? So since the product molecules do not have any affinity for the enzyme surface, they leave the enzyme surface immediately as soon as it is being formed. And again this particular enzymes, again it react with a fresh, what you can say, the substrate molecule, and again the reaction goes on. Got it? So which I have already explained you. The mechanism of the enzyme catalysis, it is being taking place in our body in this particular manner. So next is that about the catalysis, I have already explained you in the kinetics chapter, the catalysis part, that is we are having your homogeneous catalysis and heterogeneous catalysis. Homogeneous catalysis means when the reactant and the product are in the same phases, and heterogeneous means when the reactant and product are in different phases. I have also explained you in there the modern absorption theory. Got it? So here one process I need to tell you, that is your Fischer-Tropsch process. Fischer, Fischer, Tropsch. That is the Fischer-Tropsch process. Got it? So in that process what it happens is that there is a production of hydrocarbons takes place from carbon monoxide and hydrogen using iron or cobalt as a catalyst. Got it? Production of hydrocarbons takes place, got it, from carbon monoxide and hydrogen. Like I can give you an example, CO plus 2H2 in presence of copper, zinc oxide and chromic oxide, which acts as a catalyst, we can say that, to give rise to methyl alcohol, which is nothing but an hydrocarbon. Got it? And I said you, using iron as a catalyst or using cobalt as a catalyst, using zinc as a catalyst, got it? We can say that. So if you use only iron or cobalt as a catalyst, then the reaction is called as Fischer-Tropsch process, we can say that. Only iron and cobalt. But apart from iron and cobalt, if you use copper, zinc, chromium, then it is not a Fischer-Tropsch process. Got it my point? When carbon monoxide reacts with hydrogen in presence of iron and cobalt as a catalyst, it gives a methyl alcohol, then the process is called Fischer-Tropsch process. But if you use any other catalyst like copper, zinc oxide and chromium oxide, then it is not that particular process, but the methyl alcohol definitely will be getting it. Alright. Another is your polymerization of ethylene takes place using TiCl4 and trialkyl aluminium as a catalyst. Now what is that TiCl4 and trialkyl aluminium? Alright, that is called as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. That is TiCl4 plus R3Al. R can be any alkyl group. For that reason I said trialkyl aluminium, and this particular catalyst is called as Ziegler-Natta catalyst. Basically Ziegler, Z-I-E-G-L-E-R, N-A-T-T-A, Natta, Ziegler-Natta catalyst. It is being used to convert ethene molecule to polyethene. N molecules of ethene, when it reacts with TiCl4 and R3Cl as a catalyst, R3Al sorry, as a catalyst, we get it CH2 single bond, CH2 single bond, whole N, which is nothing but known as polyethene. Ethene gets converted into polyethene, we can say that. Clear? So this is what you can say an exothermic reactions which is taking place to form a brown solid, that is polyethene. Now conversion of hydrogen vegetable oil to vegetable ghee by the process of hydrogenation. It is also coming under this particular reactions, we can say that. Clear? That is nothing but is your that is heterogeneous catalysis, we can say that it comes under, because vegetable oil is in the liquid state, hydrogen in the gaseous state, and vegetable ghee is in the solid state, where nickel acts as a catalyst, which is a solid. The conversion of vegetable oil to vegetable ghee, and the process is called as hydrogenation of oils. So all these things we have discussed. You also know about promoters. Just now I said you inhibitors are the poisons which decreases the rate of the reactions, which acts as a negative catalyst, we can say that, which retards the rate of the reaction, which deaccelerates the rate of the reaction. Similarly, there are also promoters which increases the rate of the reactions. Promoters. Got it. So they increases. If you remember it, you have read it in the lower classes in Haber's process. Iron as a catalyst and molybdenum as a promoter. So promoter enhances the work of the catalyst. It increases the rate of the catalyst. We can say that. Clear? In this way. Though this is about then positive and negative catalyst. You know it better. Positive catalyst increases the rate of the reaction. The negative catalyst decreases the rate of the reactions. We can say that. Negative catalyst. There's basically most of the catalyst is your positive catalyst, which lowers the activation energy and hence it increases the rate of the reaction. I have discussed with you in the activation energy factor. Got it? There I have discussed very thoroughly with you. Got it? So in this way, this is about your catalysis. I need to say thank you very much.